They're putting tattoos everywhere, scarifying themselves. What will they do with nanotechnology?
It seems like newer ones are coming along. They're
penicillin resistant.
Badder and badder and badder. Nanotechnology might be the eventual ultimate tool with regard to fighting them, mightn't it?
Oh, absolutely, absolutely positively. And that's, I mean, because these machines are going to be operating on literally on those levels, if not smaller. And so consequently, I mean, remember somebody to one time talked and said, well, how are you going to necessarily lubricate some of these machines? Because after all, for them, a dollop of oil is an ocean.
Yes.
And
what is the answer?
And the answer is that they're talking about phased array diamond structures, diamond-like structures, so that you structure them very, very precisely in very hard patterns, so that they simply flow along.
They actually flow and don't. They are their own lubricant. The very precise nature of them is lubricant. God, that's fascinating. Eldon Elliott is my guest. He'll be right back. Now, UFO News World Report. A little name change from UFO Facts. UFO News World Report. Please be very polite with them.
That's involved protein folding in chemistry, in physics, further miniaturization of things like scanning tunneling microscopes, atomic force microscopes.
Eldon, I'd almost be willing to bet back in the horse and buggy days, they said, a machine that works as well as a horse.
Yep. Well, exactly, and the fact of the matter is it for all these people who are basically critics of this. All I can say is that because nanotechnology mimics nature, there is a certain inevitability to it, and
I know.
It just simply. It ups the ante for all of us. It ups the ante for all of us from a moral point of view, from a political point of view. You asked me just a broad question about political correctness.
Fly, Elliot.
I'm appalled by political correctness.
Fly, Elliot. If man had been meant to fly, he'd have been given little wings he could flap, just like the birds. Man will never fly, Elliot. Never.
Never fly. Nope. You just.
So there you are. Eldon, we're at the end of the time. The guy in Princeton's right. We don't have enough time. It has been a great pleasure, and we will have you back.
I would love to be back.
Eldon, thank you.
Thank you.
Take care. That's Eldon Elliott. Why, if man had meant to fly, he'd been given wings. You all know that out there, don't you? From the high desert, that is about it. If you would like a copy of this very important program, today you need. Nevertheless, would you explain that term, the goo?
The gray goo?
Yeah.
It's the notion that you create that a machine accidentally runs amok, and it essentially takes let's say all carbon-based life forms, strips them down to their essential atoms, and just turns out goo.
So all of humanity.
No, the biosphere of the planet.
Even worse.
I mean, you can do it. That's the danger in terms of we don't need to create something like what Terminator 2.
Please comment on this. Reference 1986, a book apparently called Engines of Creation.
Yes, that's Eric Drexler's book. That's the book that I got the definition of nanotechnology.
That it would be possible to, in effect, create nanotechnology machines that would, quote, lobotomize, end quote, entire populations.
Well, I mean, I think disassemble is a little more dangerous even than lobotomize. I mean, lobotomize is obviously horrific as well. Yeah, sure. I mean, you could do that. On the other hand, though, the technologies that are working on this are developing something called active shields. Remember, if you study military history, you know that for every offensive advance, there is eventually a concurrent catch-up by the defense.
Yes.
And active shields would be ways of small molecular machines that would simply keep you safe from this stuff. Keep you safe from gray goo, keep you safe from any type of invading molecular, in this case, normal viruses, normal bacteria, and any type of artificial virus or bacteria.
Isn't this off into God's country?
Well, I thought about that when Mr. Ostman, when he said he didn't want to touch theology.
Yeah, I mean, it is, after all, creation.
It is. It certainly would be considered that. I'll respond to it in two ways. Yes, there are theological concerns with this, obviously. However, Arthur C. Clarke one time had a real nice quote. He said, "The technology of any sufficiently advanced civilization is indistinguishable from magic."
Mm-hmm.
Well, I mean,
rate. In other words, if you look at what's happened since we've been alive, say,
right,
with regard to our fathers and our grandfathers and so forth, the rate of change is just going nuts.
It's on an exponential curve.
Yes.
Well, I would, like I said, to complete the analogy, I mean, what we do right now would be considered magic to somebody from Nebuchadnezzar's time.
Absolutely.
What they would be doing in the future, we would consider magic. However, it would be based on technology. The question is the moral dimension. Do we have the wisdom? Do we have the wisdom to do this? I mean, for instance, if you develop nanotechnology, you have an economic monopoly. But if you go out there and you create smart bricks, how many people do you throw out of work?
Well, actually, nanotechnology, if developed, makes money. Hold it right there. We'll be right back to you. You don't have to put up with it. What am I talking about? Hard, foul water. That's right. Hard water gets into everything, fouls it up. You know what I mean? The white, scaly stuff that sticks to about everything, including even your hair, your skin, cakes your shower head, gets in your pipes, packs your water heater until you're paying about $300 more a year just to heat the water. Well, there is an answer. Magnetic water conditioning by GMX. I've been telling you about Joan in Boulder, Colorado. Well, how about Sam and Kelly in Las Vegas? They're also using GMX to unfoul their home. They write, quote, "Everything Art Bell said about GMX magnetic water conditioner came true in our house. Our glasses are clearer, our shower walls cleaner, we're using less soap. We're very happy with our investment in GMX," end quote. Thanks, Sam. Thanks, Kelly. Most of you know I've got it here in my home. It magnetically conditions the water so it will not foul up your home, hair, or car. The cost, $600 for the average house, and it comes with a 90-day money-back guarantee. Call right now, 1-800-4060-GMX. Ordering is easy. Becoming one of the many satisfied GMX customers is a snap. Call toll-free 1-800-4060-GMX. That's 1-800-4060-GMX. The exact opposite of nano, in this case, is absolutely fresh flowers. Because their shipment is humongous, gigantic, nothing nano about it. If you want to absolutely blow away a female in your life, and it doesn't matter, any female, they all react the same way. Oh, there's an occasional abnormal female who will say, "I hate flowers." I've had one in all the years. Otherwise, they love them. There is no better deal in America than the deal you get when you deal straight with the flower farm. You pay $39.95. That's all. That includes delivery by FedEx next day during the week. You get a little handwritten card from you, signed by you. And some flower preservative. Nothing nano about it. You want the best deal in America on flowers? Call them now. 1-800-562-6438. That's 1-800-562-6438. Elton, a little while ago I said, bummer, and maybe I ought to be saying, thank God. I wonder which it really is, that I may just miss this. I wonder if it is going to turn into a nano dream or a nano nightmare. I mean, those are good.
It is up to us to make the difference. It is up to us by making the public aware of this, by insisting that research be done openly, by insisting that secrecy be a thing of the past. Anything that is going to change our behavior. Anything that's going to change ourselves as much as nanotechnology will, we're going to have to change our behavior to adapt to it.
Elton, there's about as much chance of that as there is of the authorities inviting Art Bell to go visit Area 51 and S4.
Well, that's probably absolutely true.
Yeah.
And, of course, that opens up a whole other can of worms. But that involves the social ramifications. I mean, if, for instance, one of the big arguments that's been made, the reason why the government may be covering up things in, various and sundry places, dealing with what the guest at the top of your show talked about.
Yes.
One of those reasons might be simply they're concerned about the social ramifications, about social dislocation.
Of course.
Well, the fact of the matter is that
they've got to be able to manage us, right? And
that's right. And they may be able to manage something like that, but they can't manage nanotechnology. It simply can't be stopped. It's happening all around the world.
I sorrowfully agree with you in a way. It's the genie's out. It's not going to be put back in the bottle. The trouble is, I've got this awful feeling they're far ahead of the private sector. I mean, I'm sure they've got labs working. Anything this powerful, Elton, they're working on it hard, and you know it.
If indeed they are working on it hard, then we indeed are going to be living in extremely interesting times.
That's putting it mildly.
I mean, anything that you are where you go.
Color of your eyes.
The color of your eyes. We haven't even talked about one of the most profound impacts of nanotechnology.
And that would be?
And that would be the human mind.
All right, that's a good hook. The human mind coming up next with Elton Elliott, nanotechnology. If you want to send us a fax, it's area code 702-727-8499. Coming up shortly, your calls. This is Dreamland.
Talk 102.
Here's the Talk 102 forecast for Central Illinois. Clear and cooler tonight with a low near 50 degrees. Increasing cloudiness tomorrow and a high around 75. And Tuesday's outlook, occasional showers and thunderstorms likely with a high near 65 degrees. At 7:27, it's 66 degrees. Keep listening. Dreamland continues on Talk 102.
A lot of people think that to appreciate culture, you've got to enjoy things like this. Or this. In early Mesopotamia, evidence of the first audit exists in the form of lists on clay tablets. Well, a lot of people respond to those things like this. Fire happenings. Other people go, is it over? For those of you in the category, you can't expect every cultural activity to appeal to everybody. That's why 23,000 arts and humanities groups called the National Cultural Alliance are offering you something everybody likes. A choice! For a free brochure.
This hour of Art Bell was recorded for rebroadcast at this time. Please do not call.
If you enjoyed Dreamland's weekly news segments by Linda Moulton Howe, which features updates about mysterious phenomena, then you might want to know more about her books and documentaries. Linda Howe is an Emmy Award-winning television producer, writer, and researcher of Earth mysteries linked to non-human intelligences. Her books and videos provide scientific data and first-hand eyewitnesses. Linda Moulton Howe's 2 books, An Alien Harvest and Glimpses of Other Realities, are acclaimed for their quality, depth, photographs, and drawings. If you are interested in learning more about the mysterious animal mutilations, crop circles, UFO sightings, the human abduction syndrome, and government knowledge about these worldwide phenomena, you will enjoy these books and videos, available directly from LMH Productions. You can dial 1-800-707-9993 to order. That's 1-800-707-9993.
Good evening, everybody. I'm Art Bell. I wish I could tell you that what we're talking about this evening is nonsense, but it's not. It is the immediate and near future, and it is both a reason to be hopeful and a reason to be frightened, and maybe a reason to pray. I don't know. What would you say, Elton, people ought to do more of out there? Be hopeful, frightened, or pray?
Pray.
You mentioned the human mind, Elton. What applications would there be in nanotechnology for the human mind?
Well, one of the things that over the years, science fiction writers, of which is one of the things that I do besides consulting on business.
Mm-hmm.
One of the things that science fiction writers do is they write about the future. And the future has been a fairly comfortable place to write about, essentially, and to set stories in, because there was kind of a consensus future. You'd have space flights, you'd go out into the galaxy, you'd form empires or big types of governments, and they'd collapse, and then they'd come back, and then maybe eventually way down the line you'd meet up with God or something like that.
Yes.
This was a consensus future. Well, nanotechnology has essentially and stripped that aside, and it stripped it aside in one way, and that is that nanotechnology offers possibilities in terms of altering the human brain. Capabilities, for instance, of directly putting a very, very, say, something the size of a sugar cube or smaller that would contain, for instance, the entire Library of Congress, and putting it in our heads. Giving us access. I mean, wouldn't you like to be a world-class mathematician or a world-class scientist or a world-class, whatever?
In other words,
have that capability.
In other words, integrating a nanotechnological computer with a biological unit, i.e. human being.
Correct. And if people think that this is, once again, if they think it's pie in the sky, recent research has been done which has directly linked computer chips up with leech neurons. In the past, the only way you could do this is by electrodes, which caused all sorts of problems in terms of corrosion, electrical damage to the biological systems.
Yes.
And they've now discovered a way to circumvent this. Once again, directly from the New York Times.
Well, I posed a question with my guest last week, and I'll hit you with the same one. And this is probably a crude example, but it's one I could think of. There are people with disconnected tissue so that what their eye sees is not transmitted to their brain.
Mm-hmm.
Now, you might be able to take somebody who's blind and have them see.
You might be able to take somebody who's blind and have them see. I think you would be able to do all sorts of other things. But consider for a moment, we tend to operate, with a few exceptions of peak capacity, our minds tend to operate at a certain speed. Okay, we're presented with some information, and some of us are faster than others at correlating that information.
Mm-hmm.
Imagine if you had human beings capable of correlating information at the speed of a computer.
Then you have a super race.
Well, what you have is you have a future in which science fiction writers are in big trouble because we write characters that are knowable to the audiences today. And how do you write logically about a character like that, who's smarter than you are?
Well, again, let me drag you back a little bit. If you could get the blind to see,
right,
then you could take somebody like me, and you could put something in the optic nerve that would allow me to see in the infrared spectrum. Or
we could have something that would allow you to see into the infrared, into the ultraviolet, I would presume, all along the electromagnetic spectrum, absolutely. Absolutely. You would be, for instance, in terms of information transfer. You take something that's directly connected to your mind. Have that piece of information leave your brain, have it disassembled, have it travel at light speed to another part of, say, of the galaxy, even. Have it reassembled, correlate information, come back to your mind.
How far might we be, Elton, from, and this is the analogy I used last week, I can take information on my hard drive and transfer it in a very short amount of time to another hard drive. That's
Absolutely.
a massive amount of information. What would stop us eventually from taking the contents of a human mind and, in essence, copying them,
downloading it,
or uploading, look at it.
Either term. My answer is, and I've heard people talk about this in the scientific conferences, and it's always, it always makes my skin crawl in a way.
That's right. It does mine too.
And I think that the viewers last week, some of them had it in so I think some very insightful notions, and one of those insightful notions is that there's something special about life, and there's something special about consciousness.
Other than those that are staring blankly at their radio, we don't have viewers mostly, we have listeners.
I'm sorry about that.
All right. No, the point is, and here's the hard question. You said you wouldn't be afraid of these. Let's say they hooked me up, and they, in effect, uploaded or downloaded all of the information in my brain. The question is, hold on for the question. On the other end, in this nanotechnological device, what would they have? Would they have me? Would they have my soul? What would they have?
Okay, let's say that you're out at the beach, and you take a picture of a particularly spectacular sunset.
Yeah.
You don't have the sunset. You have an image of the sunset. If they take your mind and they put it into a machine,
yes,
it may not have you. They may not have you. There may be something about the human body that we don't know about. There may be something, in other words, you may need. This is why I keep talking about augmenting our own bodies, because our minds may need our bodies in ways that we don't understand. And that's something this research is going to tell. The question is, I mean, if you can augment your body and essentially have virtual immortality, you don't have to worry about. I mean, essentially, your body's kind of become a machine anyway.
All right, I would like to begin to take. Would you be willing to take some fast phone calls?
Absolutely.
All right. Boy, this is just a mind-boggling technology, and I'm sitting here almost wishing that it wasn't. Anyway, here we go. West of the Rockies, you're on the air with Elton Elliott. Good evening.
Yeah, it reminds me of a couple things that in my past. One is be careful what you ask for. The second one reminded me of King Midas and the Golden Touch when he hugged his daughter.
Mm-hmm.
And the third one would be in the garden when the promise was made to Eve if she ate of the fruit of the tree of knowledge.
Yes.
That she would be like a god.
Yes. All right. Very good.
Okay, but that wasn't necessarily the fruit of the tree of knowledge. That was the fruit of the tree of knowledge of good and evil.
Yes.
Good and evil. And in the Bible, knowledge meant knowing. Knowing somebody meant acting. There was some sort of action that went along with eating the fruit of that particular tree. In this case, disobeying a direct order.
All right. East of the Rockies, you're on the air with Elton Elliott. Hi.
I'm just more of a believer now not to trust the government, not to trust scientists, not to trust nothing. I'll tell your viewers to start saving up on water.
I'll tell you, first of all, I don't have viewers, I have listeners. I hate television, so quit saying that.
Okay, listeners.
Yeah, thank you.
Start saving up on water and food and rely on yourselves. Thank you.
You're welcome.
I would
second that emotion.
I would be concerned. I would be concerned about the government. I would be concerned about scientists, and I would be concerned in both cases because they're all too human. But as for water, the problem with this technology is if you've got small machines that are on a molecular level, you can't hide from them. I mean, they can go through walls. They can get you anywhere, any place. The only solution to this is to develop active shields. The only solution to being overwhelmed by this technology is to be actively involved in it.
I'm already overwhelmed, and I can't figure out whether it means that we're living in the last great days or the last of the bad days. I don't know which it is.
This, I'll tell you something. I, in some ways, maybe both. In some ways, maybe that's not a self-contradictory concept.
Gee, maybe we'll be looking back at these as the good old days, back when we had social problems and every now and then somebody got killed by a gang or something or another.
Well, I don't know if that would be considered good, but...
Well, but compared to what could be in terms of the massive destructive power of nanotechnology used incorrectly. First-time caller line, you're on the air with Elton Elliott. Hello.
Hi, Art. This is Jerry in Alturas, California, listening program.
Hi, Jerry.
One of the things I was wondering, listening to this nanotechnology, is very interesting to me. I got to thinking about all of the new viruses that are showing up, like Ebola and those strains of viruses. And I was kind of wondering, since they haven't been able to find the host or the source of these viruses, if it might not be one of these nanotechnology experiments gone awry.
Oh, what a damn good question. You know, the caller is right. Ebola, they have speculated it comes from crystals and caves, and they've talked about a million different things, but they don't know. They have no idea where it keeps coming from.
Or AIDS.
Nor AIDS, right. Is it possible?
I would say probably with biotechnology you could do the same thing. You would need to go, say, as far as nanotech. Okay, in other words, yeah, that could be something that could be done with today's technology.
And they have already
engineering viruses, sure. If we can do recombinant DNA with E. coli, sure.
So we're already there. East of the Rockies, you're on the air with Elton Elliott. Where are you calling from, please?
I am calling from Louisville, Kansas.
All right, go ahead.
And I was beginning to think you could only get on by invitation only. Oh, my goodness, your guest is marvelous. I wanted to know, technology that's come through, is it all human oriented, or has any of it come from alien technology?
All right, that is, hold your answer for a second. Here's a fact. Art, I've always wondered how the aliens could make materials that could not be violated by any human means. Now I believe I know how they do it, nanotechnology. Could we now be seeing the results of the Roswell recovery of alien saucer material? Can't believe that we have happened upon this technology without some outside help.
Okay, I really think this is one that I can answer authoritatively. Most of the people that came up with the original notions of nanotechnology, most of it came from codifying all of these various notions came from the brain of one person, Eric Drexler. Okay, and Eric Drexler, although I never met him in high school, he and I went to the same, went to high schools near each other in the Mid-Willamette Valley in Oregon. I know Eric Drexler. I've sat down, I've eaten with him. He's human. Okay, the people that came up with this, no, this is not something that is reverse engineered alien technology or anything like that. No, this is human.
How can you know that?
Well, I would presume.
Let me even try this, Elton.
Okay.
How can you account for the rapidly increasing technological revolution, the pace of it? How can you account for that when all of previous human history plotted we have taken, there was intervention?
It might be reasonable to speculate that there's intervention. As a matter of fact, what was it? Daniel says knowledge shall be increased, men shall run to and fro. I think that's biblical. So that notion has been around for a long time, yeah. But as for the notion that this specific technology is it, the first major conference that was held on the West Coast, NanoCon 1, which was February of 1989. I was present with a whole bunch of other people. This is within about a year prior to that is when I first became aware of this technology and the possibilities, and I will tell you it had an incredible impact on me. It had just absolutely, I knew this was the future. There was an instinctive understanding there. Now, could that sort of instinctive understanding be implanted somehow just, out there in the ether somehow by aliens? Who knows, and who could tell?
All right, we'll be right back to Elton Elliott. It reminds me, I'm reminded of the obelisk. And I too, well, there's no way to know. This is utter speculation where this technology came from. Easily could be the mind of man. It's just that, gee, we sure have done this quickly. And again, I must wonder, on the edge of this kind of technology, whether these are the last great days, whether the future is going to be there at all. And it's going to depend on how man handles this technology, and I have this sour feeling we're not quite ready. Now, UFO News World Report, a little name change from UFO Facts. UFO News World Report searches the world to give you the information you've been looking for. No chaff, fancy ads to wade through any of that. UFO News is just packed with hard data on UFO sightings, encounters, abductions, alleged cover-ups, and more, put together in a very concise, professional newsletter by seasoned journalists. UFO News plugs you into the latest and hottest developments in the fascinating subject of UFO research. For just $24.95 a year, you've got monthly access to critical for our evil ways with disease and destructive weather. If you think the Earth is alive, then the next question is, what is thinking? What is it thinking? The Earth, that is. That's the point where those with an agenda wrap it up in a nice, easy-to-swallow package that the mere mortal who is terribly ill-equipped to ever understand it all thinks to himself, yeah, that'd explain it. Yeah, the Earth is alive. Fortunately, other than the Native American, most of the proponents of the living Earth idea always seem to be environmental crusaders on a mission to stop the use of Earth's resources for anything but sustaining a controlled population with technology slightly above that of cavemen. The Native American is a pure hypocrite and a perfect example of what happens when you put your trust in myth. He goes on to talk about some particular Indian tribe that exploited and polluted the environment until they became extinct. So he says, the next time you have a guest who says the Earth is alive, be that nut and bolts kind of guy you are and ask for something more substantial, like proof. Not some sorry excuse like cultures around the world throughout history have believed the Earth is alive. They also thought it was flat, or that the sun was carried across the sky by chariots. If you're afraid to ruffle the feathers of an invited guest, let me ask the tough questions. You can't be held responsible for callers' inquisition. Besides, when a question demands an answer like you say on Dreamland, don't these answers demand to be proven before we are to believe them? And that was from Steve of Santa Barbara. So, I thought that you guys ought to hear that before Robert Morningstar does. And, indeed, I will let him answer this. In the meantime, some of you might want to get a shot in. So there you've got it. Here are the phone numbers. If you're a first-time caller to the program, venturing forth, it's 1, dial 1 first, then our area code, 702-727-1222. The wild card direct dial lines are area code 702-727-1295. The toll-free west of the Rockies line, 1-800-618-8255. 1-800-618-8255. East of the Rockies, 1-800-825-5033. As real as the air we breathe but don't see. This is Dreamland. Another Sunday night, Dreamland on the air. Good evening, everybody. There is breaking news. There has been a powerful earthquake. It struck Russia's Kuril Islands north of Japan today. Japan's Kyoto news agency quoted Russia's emergency ministry as confirming no casualties or damage. Officials at our National Earthquake Center say the quake registered 8.0 on the Richter scale, which would make it, quote, a major seismic event outstripping all but a handful of all of history's most damaging quakes, end quote. That's from Reuters about 1 hour ago. From Mike in Montana, one of many, many faxes of those who have been following quakes. Mike says it appears to be real this week. CNN headline news just reported an 8.0 quake in the Kuril Islands chain north of Japan. He says this could well be the first quake in Gordon Michael Scallion's current window, which began December 1st. And that is true, I believe, regarding the window. And it is prophetic, indeed, that we would have that news. The main guest on Dreamland tonight is going to be Moira Timms. She's in Eugene, Oregon. And she has written a book called Beyond Prophecies and Predictions, Everyone's Guide to the Coming Changes. So, talk about timely. This is certainly timely. In a moment, coming up, Linda Howe. She has several very interesting reports for us. I've got a very quick note. We are on the very last hours of my book sale. And those of you that want an autographed version of my book, The Art of Talk, literally in the last hours, I think it ends end of show December 4th. That is tomorrow. So if you would like an autographed copy, and I want to stress this because we're getting down to the end of it, the book is great whether you have an autographed copy or not. And you're thinking the best gift you could ever buy anybody who's into talk radio. It's Real Talk. There's no contest. Now, this is an AM/FM radio that has a cassette deck on board. It stands tall. It's about 12 inches tall. It's got an LCD digital readout. It's got a timer. It's got a cassette deck that records at 1/4 speed. Now, what that means is you can take a 90-minute cassette, and on just one side of it, you can get 3 hours. Moreover, you can set a timer. So, obviously, it records Dreamland or any other show, and you don't miss it. Now, through tomorrow, Bob Crane will throw in a super high-quality 100-minute tape, which means in excess, obviously, of 3 hours, free of charge. So Christmas, Real Talk, Talk Radio, they all go together. $139.95 includes getting it right to your door, includes shipping and handling. Call Bob Crane in the morning before they're gone at 1-800-522-8863. 1-800-522-8863. Now to Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, and our Linda Howe. And let's see, I'm always trying to figure out how I should introduce you. Investigative reporter.
Yes.
You are, right?
Yes. Television producer.
Television producer, Emmy Award winning at that. And I would say I wonder if I could say the nation's leading investigator into crop circles and animal mutilations.
Well, maybe one of them. The problem is that these phenomena are so wide-ranging and complex that I don't think any one of us has got a handle on anything. We're all struggling to try to understand what is happening. So I have colleagues out there that join me in my efforts, but I certainly would say that the pursuit of truth in this complex field has begun to dominate my professional life.
That would be a good understatement, dominate your professional life, yes. And certainly you'd be leading the pack. I think of you that way, Linda. You spend so much time on it. Okay. I know of nobody else that does the kind of work you do. I mean, there are, obviously, I don't want to leave anybody out. There are other people doing the work, but it seems to me you're at the head of the pack.
Well, thanks. I'm trying, and I really feel that Dreamland is an important connection to the world, because hearing from people about their eyewitnesses' accounts, which we can report and then encourage other people to report back, I think, Art, is forming a kind of strong network here, and I'm really grateful that I can make these reports each Sunday on Dreamland. And one of the updates that I wanted to bring to our listeners was that last Sunday I interviewed author Jim Mars about his latest investigations beyond the JFK assassination into remote viewing research by the United States government. 2 days later...
Nightline.
Yes, Nightline, Associated Press, all over the place. There were stories, and the Associated Press story I thought was... especially apropos. It began, for 20 years, the United States has secretly used psychics in attempts to hunt down Libyan leader Muammar Gaddafi, to find plutonium in North Korea, and to help drug enforcement agencies, unquote. This statement was confirmed by the Central Intelligence Agency, which said the remote viewing research was codenamed Stargate, which is an interesting code name to begin with.
It sure is.
And that as recently as July 1995, this summer, at least 3 remote viewers continued to work out of Fort Meade, Maryland, which is usually associated with the location of the National Security Agency and the Defense Intelligence Agency. According to university professors Ray Hyman, a psychologist at the University of Oregon, and Jessica Utz, a statistician at the University of California in Davis, the remote viewing study reported mixed success with an accuracy rate of about 15%. Both researchers agreed that the remote viewers were not reliable enough to be used alone, but might be helpful in combination with other intelligence gathering operations. Professor Jessica Utz said the statistical results were promising enough that research should continue. She said, quote, "I would like to see funding in the open science world. I think that we are at the point that something needs to be explained." And I think this is one of the things we've all been hoping is that the broader general academic world would begin to focus attention on areas that some of us know have some kind of a reality here, but up until these recent times, the general university population has tended to ignore what we would call some of the more psychic or phenomena of the unseen.
I know. Linda, do you think it's getting any easier out there? I'll tell you this, as a talk show host, dealing with this kind of stuff all the time, and I do on this show and my regular show, I take a lot of hits. There are a lot of less than open-minded people out there who like to come after me because I investigate this sort of thing. Now, obviously, when it begins to break into the Nightline, when we begin to get prophecy fulfillment, when we begin to get films like the one of the Socorro question mark dissection, that sort of thing.
No one has proved to be false yet, and even Time and Newsweek acknowledged that.
I heard a report from somebody who called up again, taking a shot at me the other night on some other show, and it said, oh, you know, that was what's called a blood knife. That it was a knife that produces blood, he said, and so Art Bell's full of baloney.
Oh, that's not what medical people say, watching that.
I know.
So, all of us who are trying to deal in this, we'll call it the areas that are not accepted in the general social paradigm, we all are like fish swimming upstream to a certain extent. But consider that around the world, eyewitness reports have been going on for decades, maybe even centuries. And right now, the very past 2 weeks, there are more triangles in the skies acting extremely oddly, defying what we would consider to be terrestrial physics. Peter Davenport at the National UFO Reporting Center in Seattle, he called me and he told me that since November 17th, he has received several reports from Greensboro, North Carolina, all the way to Allentown, Pennsylvania, about huge, silent, lighted triangles. One of the eyewitnesses, Kathy Schreck from Wind Gap, Pennsylvania, about an hour from where I am right now, told me that she pulled her car over to the side of the road around 10:15 p.m. Friday, November 17th,
because she wanted to get a better look at a strange light in the sky that was only about 50 feet above her car. She could see what looked like solid gray-black metal in the shape of a huge triangle hovering completely silently without any motion at all. She estimated that there were 25 or 30 round white lights, she said, like car headlights on the bottom. She watched for 5 to 10 minutes, not wanting to take her eyes off the triangle, and then it suddenly took off and became a pinpoint of light in the distance. She was so unnerved by the experience that she called the local airport and was referred to the Seattle UFO Reporting Center. Peter Davenport there is trying to gather as many reports as possible, check them with airports and experts, and correlate sighting data. And for those listening, I'll just give the 24-hour hotline number in Seattle because it is a good place to network in terms of reports for correlation, and that is area code 206-722-3000. The 24-hour hotline number in Seattle is area code 206-722-3000. Now, strange lights have also been reported in Puerto Rico, along with a continuing rash of strange animal deaths that have local authorities now very concerned. Less than 1 week ago, on Tuesday, November 28th, a cow was found dying on the farm of a Puerto Rico district senator near Agua Buenos, about 45 minutes southwest of San Juan. The mayor of Agua Buenos called El Vocero newspaper photographer Eddie Diaz Conde to go and take photographs. Eddie has been photographing these unusual animal deaths for the past 2 months throughout the island, and he talked to me today about the Agua Buenos and other cases and described the unknown creature called chupacabras, or the goat sucker, that residents in Puerto Rico have been reporting and even school children have been drawing. And here is Eddie Diaz.
And the mayor called me and says, Eddie, I need to see you because I have a cow that's still alive and has 2 holes where this creature has bitten and sucked out half of the blood of this big, huge cow. We're talking about a cow that is pregnant. She had a calf, and it was still alive when I got there around 11:30 at midnight. When I got there, she was still alive, and the cow had 2 holes for at least an inch and an inch and a half, 2 inches of separation, and they looked like they were ice pick punch, and it was completely clean.
And this was on the side of the cow's neck?
That is correct.
Were any other parts of the tissue, the ears, the eyes, jaw, tongue?
They were not attacked, no way.
Nothing?
It was no other way. The only thing that we had on the cow, that she was in pain. She was actually crying out that in pain, and I opened up her eyes. Her eyes were completely almost vanished. They were completely back.
What did the senator who owned this cow, what did he say?
He didn't really actually want us to investigate more with details. But what happened is that the mayor of that town of Agua Buena, he actually wanted to make a big investigation. He wanted the Senate to start putting pressure that the government should start investigating more details of all these kinds of animals that have been attacked.
If I understand correctly, it has affected cats, goats, sheep, cattle, horses, chickens. Is this mark, these 2 puncture holes in the side of the neck, has that been reported in every case?
Everything that has been reported to the police, it's been exactly the same way. Everybody's been attacked the same way. And that they've been attacked by sort of an animal that nobody knows. That's the only thing that we have up to now.
Is that some people are reporting this strange creature with the spines running from the head down the back and with these large red eyes.
Okay. Looking at a bullfrog, the way the back of a bullfrog with the stuff like that,
right.
this is the kind of creature we're talking about that people have seen. They describe this kind of material that this animal is sort of made out of.
Reminds them of a frog.
It could be a giant frog, a flying giant frog with sort of mixed with maybe monkey or something. It's gonna be something that was created. It could be in a laboratory or something. It's something that very strange. And everybody describes the same kind of lumpy type, big claws, big eyes. We had just 2 weeks ago, we had a whole hen house that lost 79 chickens and one shot deal one night. They lost the whole 79 chickens.
Did the chickens have the same holes punched?
Yes, they did have it. They did have them in between their wings. They had them in between their wings. The thing is that we can't understand that it's very